Well, Patricia, I'm a flight attendant and I work at a large airline that sets up its own subsidiary labour hire companies in order to reduce wages and conditions of crew. And it's done that since 2007. So it leads to a bit of difference between our ranks, and it just doesn't come across as all that fair.
No. And you're actually, as a result, how are you going to fare as a result of the changes to the laws that Labor is proposing?
Well, I'd love to see what the laws actually look like in the first place, and that's kind of a little bit about my question this evening. So I'm hoping that, for people who are employed at the subsidiary labour hire company like me, that our levels of wages rise, but also for my colleagues at the other end of the scale, the more experienced ones, that their pay doesn't drop.
Right. Okay. Go ahead. Ask your question.
All right, so as I said, I'm a flight attendant at the large airline, and we have these two different levels. In some marketing that the business lobbies groups have put together, they're claiming that by welcoming in the same job, same pay legislation, that hard work and recognition of experience won't be possible to reward with extra pay. So I just wanted to find out from the panel, what are some elements of same job, same pay that will protect that reward for people?
Sally McManus, I'll go to you first. Obviously, you're not the government, but you are the trade union movement that's been really calling for this. We don't have the detail of how it would work, but how would you like it to work?
Well, I don't know what company Ben works for, but Qantas has got 12 labour hire companies. Some of them they own themselves that have been set up or that they use, and people get paid differently for doing the same job. In fact, there's someone that I've met from a labour hire company who is a cabin manager and gets paid less than some of the people she supervises. So it's a really unjust system, and it's like that because effectively this company, as many have, are gaming the system. They're doing so to cut wages. Big mining companies are doing the same. What happens is consultants work out, here's a scheme you can do legally in order to pay people less, and this is what they've done. So what we want is for that to stop. It's not fair or right that those type of schemes should be allowed to be used to cut down wages. So the business lobby is running this really weird and wrong campaign saying that somehow it's going to force companies in Australia not to pay people more. Isn't that the most craziest thing that you could possibly even be saying that? What it will simply mean is that if you use labour hire, you can't pay them any less than what you pay them in the host company. So if you're a trainee, you get paid the trainee rates. If you've got 20 years experience, you get paid the 20 years experience rate. It's simply shutting down gaming. They game that just like, some companies game JobKeeper, and they do the same with tax. You've got to close those loopholes. Otherwise, it will spread across the economy. OK, Keith, your side of politics has been raising the sort of, danger on this. Can you explain to me what you're concerned about?
Because the talking points for this sound fair and they sound reasonable, but the actual bill that's being put forward is not. It expands beyond just labour hire to services.
There is no bill.
There is no bill.
Well, the proposal, the policy proposal.
But that's the problem, isn't it? That at the moment it's a discussion paper, but we don't actually know the details.
Well, of course, the detail will come. But what we need in our economy more than ever is flexibility. And when you have a proposal to reduce flexibility, to centralise a wage system, that risks taking us back to the early 1980s. OK,
so let's go to Ben's question, though. Is it fair that these two classes of workers would be receiving such different wages for the same work?
Well, it depends upon the particular company.
Well, he gave us a scenario. Is that fair?
On the surface of it, it doesn't seem fair. Of course it doesn't. But again, the devil will be in the detail. And if this goes beyond just labour hire to services, then that will have a real impact upon our whole industrial relations system.
No,
and it will. And it will.
No,
and it will reduce flexibility. And when you reduce flexibility, you reduce productivity and you increase costs. And that is inflationary. And that is the number one risk that we have in our economy right now.
Sally, you don't seem convinced, but I'll bring you in, Stephen.
Yeah. I feel passionate about this. I spent about 10 years of my life dealing with circumstances just like Ben, where you'd negotiate an enterprise agreement with a workplace. There'd be 100 people in that workplace. Over the course of the next 3 years, that 100 people would shrink to 30, and there'd be 70 people there employed by a labour hire company on significantly less wages and conditions. It wasn't an accident. It was a deliberate design feature. We've had 20 years of flexibility. It's driven wages and conditions down. we do need flexibility, but we also need fairness and we need equity. And this is about ensuring that if somebody is doing exactly the same job in the same workplace and they've been doing it for years, same job, same pay should apply. It's not that hard.
Okay, I'm going to go back to you, Keith. On that explanation, and you did say it didn't sound fair in Ben's scenario, does that mean that you do think there is an issue to sort out?
Well, potentially. But the issue that we have to look at, and it's about fairness, is about whether someone has the same experience or skill level. It's about rewarding effort and hard work.
We all agree with that. We all agree with that.
But there's a real risk in this policy proposal that it will put everyone at the same level and it won't reward that sort of effort.
How could it possibly stop an employer paying someone more if they want to pay them more? Can any government bring in such a law? Would anyone even propose it? I'd be opposing it. If they did that, I'd be opposing it. So that is ridiculous. I mean, it's the same beef and chicken that he's serving, and yet he gets paid differently.
I think, Sally, with due respect, anyone who's actually run a small business or a medium business...
very often anymore. I think it's a bit of an exaggeration, Sally McManus, but sure.
True, I take it back.
Yeah, but just to finish off, like when you actually run a small business, and my parents have been involved running small businesses, that's not how the real world works.
It's got nothing to do with small businesses. It's got to do with big businesses.
It involves businesses, and if we do this, it reduces flexibility and it will be inflationary.
Yeah. Thenu, I want to bring you in because you're actually in a cohort of people, young people, if I can, make you a representative for your generation.
Absolutely, yeah.
Who are really being disproportionately affected by these kinds of labour arrangements. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely, we are. And it's not just young people, it's migrants, it's all types of vulnerable people in the society that are victim to exploitation as a result of these labour markets. And I think what this law has the potential to do is really remove these individuals from being treated like second-class citizens, because that is how they are being treated right now. And elevating them to a standard rate of pay that is really just the basic level of pay that everyone else gets for the same outputs, I don't think at all will stop people with, more experience getting paid more. It just brings these people up to the same level that we hold to general society, which I think is a good thing.
A lot of the detail will be in the bill, and that's where some of this will be clarified. Stephen?
Consultation out at the moment. We're being criticised for not having the detail. We actually want to consult with businesses to ensure that examples such as those raised by Keith, unintended consequences are dealt with.
Because they can happen, can't they? Like he raises a decent issue in relation to
but can we get some perspective on this? 2% of the workforce, overwhelmingly they are being paid, overwhelmingly they're permanent employees and overwhelmingly they're paid less than somebody working in direct employment doing exactly the same job. Yes, we want flexibility, but we also want fairness, and what's happening at the moment isn't fair.
Let me see what Ben thinks of all of the answers that have been provided. Ben, you've been sitting there listening very carefully. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I totally agree with what everyone has been saying on the panel this evening. I think that labour hire does have a really important role to play, particularly for my industry. We go through peaks and troughs, holiday seasons and things like that. And that's what I really think that labour hire would be perfect for. But, I've been in this role for over 10 years now, and I just want everyone to be paid the same. I just want it to be fair, so there's no differences between us.